Where are you sitting in your car? If your life were a car, where would you be sitting? And what would you be doing? Are you in the driver's seat, gripping the wheel, pushing to get ahead, one eye on the GPS so you don't miss the next exit? Or are you driving with the windows down, headed towards an unknown destination, unbothered by the clock or commitments? Maybe you're in the passenger seat, anxiously waiting for the driver to finally hand you the keys. Or maybe you're in the back seat, offering directions while someone else controls the wheel, wondering if they hear you and hoping that they'll stop when you ask. I've been thinking a lot about how my life has worked and not worked this year, and I've been comparing it to other years. This is an analogy that captures it quite well. A good friend of mine once said that he's letting God take the wheel because if he takes it, he might crash the car. At the time, we both laughed about this. But the more I think of it, the more I realize this example can actually be applied to understanding and adjusting how we engage with life. So as I reflected on the past year, I thought to myself, if my life was a car, who is driving? For me, generally, it's God. God, the universe, source, karma, whatever you want to call it, whatever label you give it. See, I believe that there's an intelligent design for our lives, and we can't always see it. I call this force God, but you can call it whatever you'd like. This intelligence sits in the driver's seat of my car. I am in the passenger seat, and I have a very specific job. I have a few jobs. I decide where we're going, as in I decide the life experience that I would like to have. The driver then drives us there, taking the fastest, most efficient routes possible. I may look up directions and suggest some routes. We might take them, we might not, but I always trust that we'll get there. If there are specific stops I'd like to make on the drive, they come up, and I let God know, hey, can we pull over for some ice cream? That spot looks great. And we usually do. Sometimes the ice cream is worth it, and sometimes I could have done without it, but I wouldn't have known if I didn't stop, right? Whatever the case, we keep driving based on wherever it is that I said I wanted to go. I also understand that sometimes this intelligent force that's in the driver's seat needs to make some stops on the way. Maybe for me to learn some lessons or help other people before we can get to my destination. And that's all cool. I do my best, and we keep driving. But in this car, I'm almost always in the passenger seat, stating my desires, suggesting directions, playing my favorite music, and setting the mood for the drive. This year of my life has felt very different. It hasn't been a terrible year, but it's been a very, very difficult one. And as I thought about this car scenario, I realized I don't know when this happened, but I slipped into the backseat of this car. Of my car. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I was overwhelmed. I was confused. And so I stopped being the front passenger and the participant that I usually am. I sat with this realization, and like I normally do, I got curious. I wondered, when did I change seats? What caused it? And who the heck is in the passenger seat? See, this year was supposed to be the year I focused on building my business. That was a much bigger task than I had ever imagined. And at some point, I decided it was too big of a task. Up to a specific moment earlier this year, I was very much in the passenger seat with a clear vision of where I wanted this year to end and what that destination was. And then my mom's health took a turn, and I ended up spending a lot of time in hospitals, waiting for doctors and test results and emergency rooms and ICUs and stops that I had not planned on getting off at. And simultaneously, for the first time in over a decade, I realized I had some very strong, very deep romantic feelings for someone I had met just last year. I didn't know it at the time, but the inside of my car was about to look very different. There were times this year where I tried to take the wheel because I needed control of something, of anything. And as that usually goes, it didn't work. I realized quickly after moving into the driver's seat that the roads were too crowded, the weather was unpredictable, other people trying to drive their cars didn't know how to drive, and I wasn't familiar with the rules of the road. So I quietly get back into the passenger seat and start stating my desires again and figuring out directions. But then I realized that I've spent a lot of this year in a part of the car that I am not accustomed to being in. The back seat, the place where you nap, the place where you go when you're too tired, when you don't want to navigate anymore. Maybe you're getting car sick. Maybe getting to the destination is taking too long. So we sneak into the back seat for a little nap. I think we all have these moments in life when the car is moving, we're not really there, we're along for the ride, we're just dozing off in the back seat or distracted. But then I got to this question. If I've been sitting in the back seat of my car, who the heck has been in the passenger seat? Because that person's been giving directions, right? And I realized that somehow I let this man that I met a little over a year ago, the one that I started having feelings for, sneak into the passenger seat of my car. I felt such an instant connection with him that it made sense. He got to sit in the passenger seat because I trusted him. I trusted that because I was tired and I was overwhelmed, he could just make some decisions about where we were going. But here's the thing. This is not his car. This is not his ride. And we might not even have the same destination in mind. And the worst part about all of this is I never told him that he was in the passenger seat of my car. To be honest, I don't even think he wanted that seat. You see, he's had a really hard year too. And it was probably really unfair for me to expect him to be playing such a big role in my car when he has a car of his own to deal with. And all of a sudden it made sense why after a full year when I looked up and looked out the window, I found that we've been driving in circles. Now, he's a really nice guy, and I think he might have the potential to sit in the passenger seat of my car and give directions in the future after he's earned the right to sit in that seat, which he hasn't yet. I think we all end up in this situation more than we care to admit. We allow and even expect people to get into the passenger seat of our car. We assume that they're on it, they're navigating, they know where we want to go, they're going to help us get there. We sit in that back seat believing that their priority is our life experience. We do this with our partners, our romantic interests, our parents, our friends, our siblings, and yes, even our managers at work. We expect that they'll get us to wherever we want to go. We might not consciously know this, but we often let those who are closest to us or who seem to know more than us decide our next stop on the road. Sometimes we even let them decide the destination of this journey. And sometimes we even let them drive the car. This becomes especially easy to do when we're tired, overwhelmed, when life becomes too much to deal with, and we simply just need a break. The strange thing about sitting in the back seat is that sometimes, like me, you don't even know when you've moved into it. And the worst part about sitting in the back seat is that it's really, really comfortable. See, in the back seat, you get used to not making decisions. You're not navigating anymore. You're not even controlling the music. You let yourself get distracted. Maybe you'll take a nap, scroll on your phone. Maybe you're reading a book. You avoid your problems. You stare out the window and get lost in the views. Whatever you're doing, in the back seat, you're not focused on where your life is going. Because you've outsourced that. You'd like to think someone else is handling it. And then one day you look up and wonder why your car has been stalled or why you've been driving around in circles. So earlier this month, I decided I will be getting back into the passenger seat of my car, not the driver's seat, the passenger seat. I will ask this man to go get back into his own car and figure out where he's going, and I'll let him know where my car is headed. And if he'd like to meet me there, he's more than welcome to. But he needs to bring his own car for now. Whether he chooses to sit in the driver's seat or the passenger seat or the back seat or the trunk of his car, that's completely up to him because it's his car. So as we go into the new year, think about where your car is headed. You don't need to have a map. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know all the stops or even the big destination. You just need to know your next stop. Where would you like to go next? What is the experience of life you'd like to have next on this journey? And then figure out who is driving and where you're seated and who else is in the car. It's okay if you've been tired and decided to sit in the back for a little while. Just make a plan to get into that passenger seat. Or if it's your style, get into the driver's seat. I do that too sometimes. If someone else is sitting in the passenger seat of your car, make sure that person knows where they're sitting and the responsibility that comes with it. Make sure they've earned the privilege of having that seat. And make sure they agreed to sit in it. Let them know where you want to go next. And be sure that they too want the life experience your car is headed towards. I wish you a safe and fantastic ride in 2026.